The night is dark and full of theories.
What if Tywin Lannister raised Jon Snow? What if the old lion claimed Ned Stark's bastard as his own? What if the boy with Targaryen blood learned Lannister ruthlessness instead of Stark honor? The Tower of Joy stands isolated in the Red Mountains of Dorne, a place of blood and roses and broken promises. Ned Stark climbs those stairs and finds his sister Lyanna dying in a bed of blood, a baby in her arms. The child she made with Rhaegar Targaryen, the last living son of the Dragon Prince, the boy who has a better claim to the Iron Throne than Robert Baratheon, if anyone discovers the truth. Lyanna makes Ned promise to protect him. "Promise me, Ned." Her final words, her dying wish. Ned promises because what else can he do as his beloved sister dies? In the original timeline, Ned takes the baby north to Winterfell, claims him as his own bastard son, Jon Snow, raises him alongside his true-born children, lets his honor suffer, lets Catelyn resent him, lets Jon grow up believing he is Ned's bastard, never knowing his true parentage until it is too late to matter. Jon becomes a man of the Night's Watch, fights the dead, discovers his identity, becomes a king he never wanted to be. The story we know. But what if Ned makes a different choice? What if he realizes that keeping Jon at Winterfell puts him in constant danger? Robert visits, Robert sees the boy. Robert might notice something, might recognize Rhaegar in the child's features, might demand his death as he demanded the deaths of Rhaegar's other children. The risk is too great. Ned needs to hide Jon somewhere Robert will never look, somewhere no one would ever suspect, somewhere the boy can be raised safely while remaining hidden in plain sight. Tywin Lannister returns to Casterly Rock after the rebellion ends, angry and unsatisfied. His contributions to Robert's victory were necessary, but came too late to earn real gratitude. He sacked King's Landing. His men killed Rhaegar's children. Gregor Clegane smashed the baby's head against a wall. Amory Lorch stabbed the girl 50 times. Robert thanked him, but did not reward him sufficiently. The slight burns. Tywin is Hand of the King no longer. Aerys dismissed him years ago. Robert does not reinstate him. The insult deepens. Worse, his family is a disaster that shames him. Jaime joined the King's Guard and cannot inherit. Cersei is married to Robert but produces no children yet. Tyrion is a drunken dwarf who killed his mother in birth and embarrasses the Lannister name with every breath. The legacy Tywin built is crumbling. He needs heirs. Needs someone to carry the Lannister name forward with competence and strength. Needs a grandson who can be molded into the leader House Lannister requires. Ned considers this carefully. Tywin needs an heir. Tywin hates the Targaryens with absolute passion. No one would ever suspect Tywin Lannister of harboring a Targaryen child. It is perfect misdirection. Hide the prince in the lion's den. And Ned has leverage. Information about Cersei and Jaime that he discovered. Rumors he investigated. Evidence he gathered. The twins are too close. Their relationship is inappropriate. He has not confronted them, but he knows. He can use this. Ned travels to Casterly Rock in secret after the rebellion ends. Brings the baby. Meets with Tywin privately. Makes an offer that sounds like a plea. He has a bastard son from the war. A product of a brief encounter he is ashamed of. Catelyn will not accept the child at Winterfell. The marriage is new and fragile. Having the bastard there would poison it. He begs Tywin to take the boy. Raise him as a ward or servant or anything. Just keep him away from Winterfell. He will owe Tywin a tremendous debt. Tywin is suspicious immediately. Why would Ned Stark, famously honorable, abandon his bastard? Why bring the child to him specifically? What is the game? Ned explains that he trusts Tywin to raise the boy properly, to give him education and opportunity, to make him useful, and Ned hints at his knowledge about Cersei and Jaime. Never states it directly, just implies he knows things. Things that could damage the Lannister alliance with the crown if revealed. Things he will keep quiet about if Tywin helps him with this problem. Tywin understands immediately. This is blackmail wrapped in a request. Ned knows about the twins. Threatens to expose them unless Tywin takes this bastard. The anger Tywin feels is cold and calculating. He could refuse. Could have Ned killed right here. But Ned is Robert's best friend. His death would bring consequences, and having leverage over Ned Stark might be useful. An honorable man compromised is a valuable asset. He agrees to take the child, but on his terms. The boy will be raised as Tywin's ward, not a servant. Will be given the Lannister name legally. will become Jon Lannister through formal adoption, will be educated as Tywin's heir since Jaime cannot inherit. The price for this is Ned's complete silence about the twins and absolute loyalty to House Lannister in all political matters. Ned agrees because he has no choice. The deal is struck. Jon Snow becomes Jon Lannister. The wolf becomes a lion. Tywin looks at the baby and sees potential. The child is healthy and strong, has unusual features, dark hair and gray eyes that are striking. Clearly not a Lannister by blood, but that can be explained easily enough. A ward adopted into the family. It happens. What matters is shaping him into a worthy heir. Tywin commits fully to this project. If he is going to raise this child, he will raise him properly. No half measures. The boy will be a Lannister in every way that matters. The story spreads carefully. Tywin Lannister adopted a war orphan, a noble's bastard from the Riverlands whose father died in battle, took pity on the child and gave him the Lannister name. An act of charity from the great lord. Most accept this because who would question Tywin Lannister? Some wonder at the generosity since Tywin is not known for sentiment. But children need homes and Tywin needs heirs. The logic works. The truth stays buried. Jon grows up in Casterly Rock surrounded by gold and crimson instead of gray stone and snow. His earliest memories are of Tywin's solar, watching the old lion work. Tywin brings him to every meeting from age 3, sits him in a chair and makes him watch, makes him listen, makes him absorb how power functions. The boy cannot understand the words yet, but he learns the rhythms, learns that power is about control, about dominance, about making others bend to your will. The education is comprehensive and ruthless. Tywin personally oversees every aspect of Jon's development, hires the best tutors in every subject, mathematics and accounting, history with emphasis on power and conquest, languages including High Valyrian, strategy and warfare. Jon learns that knowledge is power, that information is a weapon, that understanding your enemy is how you destroy them. He learns young and learns thoroughly because Tywin accepts nothing less than perfection. The martial training is equally intense. Jon begins sword training at 4 years old. Master-at-arms drill him daily. He learns the sword and lance and mace, learns mounted combat and infantry tactics, learns that strength without skill is worthless. That victory goes to those who prepare better. That honor in combat is for fools. You fight to win by any method necessary. Cheat if it gives advantage. Deceive if it creates opportunity. Only the outcome matters. Tywin teaches him about legacy directly, about how everything you do reflects on your house, how individual desires mean nothing compared to family advancement, how personal honor is a luxury that great houses cannot afford. You serve your house above all else. You make decisions based on what strengthens your family, not what feels morally comfortable. Sentiment is weakness. Love is a tool. Fear is more reliable than affection. Jon absorbs these lessons completely. He has no other influence to counter them. No Stark honor, no Northern values, no competing philosophy. Just Tywin's worldview presented as objective truth from his earliest awareness. He learns to think like a Lannister, to calculate costs and benefits, to view people as assets or threats, to measure everything by how it affects House Lannister's position. It becomes his nature. Tyrion is a complicated presence in Jon's childhood, the dwarf uncle who drinks and reads and makes jokes. Tywin keeps them separated as much as possible. Does not want Tyrion's influence corrupting the heir he is carefully shaping, but complete separation is impossible in the same castle. Jon encounters Tyrion in the library, in the halls. At dinners, Tyrion cannot avoid. The interactions are brief but meaningful. Tyrion sees what Tywin is doing, sees the child being shaped into a miniature version of the old lion, feels some pity for the boy who has no childhood, only constant education and evaluation, tries to warn Jon subtly that there is more to life than duty and power. That books contain wisdom Tywin never mentions. That kindness is not weakness. But Jon dismisses this. Tyrion is a disappointment to House Lannister. His words carry no weight. His existence is barely tolerated. Why would Jon listen to him? Cersei is a distant presence. She visits Casterly Rock occasionally between pregnancies in King's Landing, views Jon with suspicion and dislike. This adopted heir threatens her children's position. If Tywin truly favors this ward over her children, it damages Joffrey's future. She plots against Jon subtly, spreads rumors about his base birth, suggests he is unworthy of the Lannister name. But Tywin shuts this down immediately and brutally. Jon is his chosen heir. Cersei's opinions are irrelevant. She stops the open opposition, but the hatred remains. Jaime encounters Jon during visits to Casterly Rock, the Kingsguard knight who is technically Jon's adopted uncle. Jaime is curious about the boy Tywin favors over his own blood children. Watches Jon train, sees real talent developing. The boy is good with a sword, better than Joffrey, more disciplined, more focused. Jaime offers tips occasionally, teaches him advanced techniques. Jon accepts the instruction gratefully. Jaime is a legend. Learning from him is an honor. A bond forms between them. The lessons in cruelty come gradually. Tywin does not teach mercy because mercy is weakness. When servants fail, they are punished harshly as examples. When small folk complain, they are reminded of their place. When enemies are defeated, they are destroyed completely, root and stem. Leave no one to seek vengeance. Jon learns that power means being willing to do what others will not. That ruling requires making hard decisions without hesitation. That guilt is for those who lack the strength to rule. A defining moment comes when Jon is 8 years old. A servant boy steals bread from the kitchens, is caught and brought before Tywin for judgment. Tywin makes Jon pass sentence, tests him. The boy is hungry and young. The theft is minor, but theft from House Lannister cannot be tolerated. It sets a precedent. Jon knows what Tywin expects. He orders the boy's hand removed, watches the punishment carried out, forces himself not to look away, learns that leadership means accepting the cost of discipline. Tywin approves, tells Jon that sentiment would have been weakness, that mercy to one encourages others to steal, that harsh punishment now prevents greater problems later. The logic is cold but sound. Jon accepts it, buries whatever discomfort he feels, understands that ruling means doing unpleasant things. The hand was necessary. He made the right choice. Tywin's approval confirms it. The political education intensifies as Jon grows older. He sits in on Tywin's meetings with bannermen, learns how to read people, how to identify weaknesses, how to exploit them, how to make deals that appear fair but favor you, how to threaten without stating threats, how to reward loyalty and punish betrayal. The Game of Thrones is complex but reducible to simple principles. Power flows to those willing to take it. Everything else is noise. Jon learns about the other great houses through Tywin's lens. The Starks are honorable fools who value pride over pragmatism. The Baratheons are strong but stupid. The Tyrells are ambitious schemers. The Martells are dangerous and hold grudges forever. The Arryns are weak and isolated. Every house has weaknesses to exploit. Every alliance is temporary. Every friend is a potential enemy. Trust no one outside your family and few within it. News from the outside world comes regularly. Robert's reign is a disaster of spending and incompetence. Cersei produces children who are clearly not Robert's. Jon Arryn investigates the legitimacy of the royal children, dies mysteriously. Ned Stark becomes Hand of the King. Jon pays attention to all of this. Ned Stark is technically his father, though he has no memory of him. Feels no connection to the man who gave him away. Ned chose honor over family, abandoned his son to avoid embarrassment. That tells Jon everything he needs to know about Northern honor. The revelation about Joffrey's parentage becomes widely known after Ned's investigation. Cersei and Jaime's incest is exposed. Joffrey is a bastard with no claim. The realm fractures into war. The War of the Five Kings begins. Tywin mobilizes immediately. This is opportunity. Robert is dead. The succession is disputed. House Lannister can seize power if they move decisively. Tywin takes command of the Lannister forces, brings Jon with him at age 14. Time for the boy to learn warfare firsthand. The war becomes Jon's education in practical application of everything Tywin taught. He serves as Tywin's squire and aide, watches strategy unfold in real time, sees how battles are won through positioning and supplies more than fighting, sees how fear and reputation can be as effective as armies, sees how Tywin manipulates everyone, allies and enemies both, using them, discarding them, advancing Lannister interests ruthlessly. The Red Wedding is Jon's introduction to Tywin's ultimate ruthlessness. Tywin plans the massacre carefully, The Starks must be destroyed completely. Robb Stark is winning battles but losing the war. He broke his oath to the Freys. That provides opportunity. Tywin makes a deal with Walder Frey and Roose Bolton. They will kill Robb and Catelyn under guest right. The ultimate betrayal, the ultimate victory. Jon learns the plan beforehand, understands it is necessary. The Starks are enemies. Enemies must be destroyed. Honor is a trap. Guest right is a tool. Break it if breaking it wins. When news arrives that the Red Wedding succeeded, Tywin is satisfied. Tells Jon this is how you win wars. Not through honorable combat, through removing your enemies when they are vulnerable. The North will never recover. The rebellion is broken. House Lannister is supreme. Jon absorbs this lesson. You do what is necessary. The songs will call you dishonorable, but you will be alive and victorious while your honorable enemies are dead. Tywin dies months later, killed by Tyrion in a moment of family dysfunction, shot with a crossbow in his privy. An ignoble death for the greatest mind in Westeros. Jon is devastated by the loss. Tywin was everything to him. Father, teacher, the center of his world. Without Tywin, Jon feels lost, but he is also ready. He is 17, educated completely, trained thoroughly, hardened by war. He is Tywin's heir and inherits Casterly Rock and control of the Westerlands. The Lords of the West test him immediately. He is young, unproven in command. Some suggest Tywin Lannister should rule as regent. Jon crushes this immediately. Calls the Lords to Casterly Rock, addresses them with Tywin's cold authority, makes clear he learned from the old lion. Will tolerate no challenges. Those who swear loyalty will prosper. Those who hesitate will regret it. The demonstration of will works. The Lords bend the knee. Jon rules the Westerlands at 17. The political situation is complex. Cersei sits as Queen Regent in King's Landing. Tommen is king but a child. The realm is exhausted by war. The faith militant rises. Enemies surround them. Jon sees opportunity in chaos. He consolidates power in the West, strengthens defenses, builds alliances, prepares for the next stage. He is patient, like Tywin taught him. Strike when the moment is perfect, not before. Then the revelation comes. Rumors spread about Jon's true parentage. Someone investigated, someone discovered the truth. Jon Snow was not Ned Stark's bastard. Jon Snow is Jon Targaryen, son of Rhaegar and Lyanna, the rightful heir to the Iron Throne by every law if Targaryen succession matters. The information spreads like wildfire, reaches King's Landing, reaches Jon. Jon's reaction is cold calculation rather than emotional crisis. So he has Targaryen blood. So his entire identity is built on lies. What does this actually change? He was raised a Lannister, thinks like a Lannister, is Lord of Casterly Rock. This revelation is information to be used, not a crisis of identity. Tywin taught him that. Blood matters less than actions. He is who he made himself, not who his parents were. But others care deeply about blood. The Targaryen loyalists in Westeros suddenly have a legitimate male heir to rally behind. Better claim than Daenerys across the narrow sea. Jon Targaryen could unite the realm if he claims the throne, could end the wars, could restore the dynasty. Messages arrive from all directions, offering support, begging him to claim his birthright, promising armies if he takes up the dragon banner. Jon considers this carefully as Tywin taught him. What serves his interests? He rules the richest region in Westeros already. Claiming the throne risks everything, but it also offers ultimate power. The Game of Thrones has one winner. Everyone else loses eventually. He has a legitimate claim, has resources, has the training. Why not play to win completely? He makes his decision. He will claim the Iron Throne, not for honor or birthright or dynasty, because it is the logical move, because he can win, because Tywin taught him to seize opportunity. He declares himself Jon Targaryen, rightful king, calls his banners, prepares for war, but he will win this war the Lannister way. Through strategy and ruthlessness, through making enemies destroy each other, through being willing to do what others will not. The declaration sends shockwaves through Westeros. Jon Targaryen, raised by Tywin Lannister, claiming the Iron Throne, with Lannister gold and Targaryen blood combined. It is unprecedented, terrifying to some, inspiring to others. The realm fractures along new lines as everyone recalculates their positions in this changed game. Cersei's reaction in King's Landing is volcanic rage mixed with genuine fear. This adopted brother she always resented now claims the throne her son sits on. Worse, he has a better claim by blood. Worse still, he has Tywin's mind and the Lannister armies and the wealth of Casterly Rock. She cannot dismiss him as a pretender, cannot ignore him as irrelevant. He is the most dangerous threat she has ever faced, because he is everything Tywin built given form. She sends assassins immediately. Multiple attempts using various methods. Poison in wine, knives in darkness, planned accidents. Jon survives them all because Tywin taught him paranoia, taught him to trust no one, taught him to taste food carefully and sleep lightly and keep guards he personally selected. The assassins fail or are caught. Jon sends their heads back to King's Landing in boxes. The message is clear. He is not Ned Stark. He will not be murdered easily. Jaime is torn by this development. He swore oaths to protect the king, which now means Tommen. But Jon is family in a strange way. The adopted nephew he trained and respects. Jaime knows Jon has the better claim legally, knows Tommen is a bastard of incest with no right to rule. His honor says support the legitimate heir. His vows say protect the current king. His heart says protect Cersei. He is paralyzed by competing loyalties. Tyrion, who escaped King's Landing and wanders Essos, hears the news with fascination. Jon Lannister is Jon Targaryen. The nephew he tried to warn about Tywin's influence now claims the throne with Tywin's methods. Tyrion sees the bitter irony. A Targaryen raised as a Lannister might be exactly what Westeros deserves. Ruthless enough to hold power. Competent enough to wield it effectively, better than Cersei or Tommen or any other option. He decides to return to Westeros, to offer his services to Jon, to see if any of his warnings took root beneath the Lannister exterior. The great houses respond according to their interests. The Reach under the Tyrells considers carefully. Jon has a legitimate claim, but backing him means war with the current crown, yet the Tyrells always play to win. Olenna Tyrell sends envoys to negotiate. What does Jon offer in exchange for Tyrell support? Jon offers a marriage alliance. He will marry Margaery Tyrell if the Reach supports his claim. The Tyrells wanted a queen. He offers them one. Olenna agrees. The Reach declares for Jon Targaryen. Dorne declares immediately. The Martells hate the Lannisters for what happened to Elia, but Jon is Rhaegar's son, Elia's nephew by marriage. The blood of the dragon flows through him. That matters more than his upbringing. Doran Martell sends word that Dorne supports the rightful heir, sends 10,000 spears to Jon's cause. The declaration is passionate. Jon accepts it coolly. Dorne is useful. Their hatred of the Lannisters is useful. He will use them. The Vale remains neutral under Littlefinger's influence. He wants to see who wins before committing. Jon notes this for future reference. Littlefinger is too clever by half. Will need to be dealt with eventually. But not now. The Vale can wait. The Riverlands are devastated by war and occupation. The remaining Tully forces rally to Jon because anyone is better than the Freys and Boltons. Jon accepts their support but invests little in defending them yet. They are a broken region. Useful for tying down enemy forces but not worth heavy investment until victory is secured. The North is the critical question. Robb Stark is dead. Ned Stark is dead. Jon's connection to the Starks is known now. He is Lyanna's son. The blood of Winterfell runs in his veins. Some northern lords argue he is the rightful king in the north as Lyanna's son. Others say he was raised by the man who planned the Red Wedding. Tywin's heir cannot be trusted by northerners. Roose Bolton holds Winterfell and controls the north through fear. His legitimization from Tommen makes him Warden of the North legally. But his position is precarious. The northern lords hate him for the Red Wedding. His hold depends on Lannister backing. If the Lannisters fall, he falls. When Jon declares, Roose faces a dilemma. Support the current Lannister regime or support Jon who might win. Jon sends Roose a private message, an offer wrapped in threat. Support Jon's claim and keep Winterfell in the wardenship. Oppose him and be destroyed. Roose is a practical man who understands power. Jon will likely win with the Reach and Dorne behind him. Better to be on the winning side. Rose declares for Jon Targaryen. The North follows reluctantly because they have no choice. The pieces are positioned. Jon commands the Westerlands, the Reach Dorne, and nominally the North and Riverlands. Cersei holds King's Landing, the Stormlands, and the Crownlands. The war is not yet won, but Jon has every advantage. Superior forces, better generals, more resources, and most importantly, he fights with Tywin's ruthlessness while his enemies hesitate. The military campaign Jon executes is methodical and brutal. He does not chase glory or quick victory. He strangles the enemy slowly, cuts supply lines, besieges strategically important castles, forces Cersei to disperse her forces trying to defend everything. Each battle is calculated to maximize enemy losses while minimizing his own. He trades space for time, lets the enemy exhaust themselves, then strikes when they are weakest. Margaery Tyrell arrives at Casterly Rock for the marriage. She is beautiful and clever, and politically astute, everything a queen should be. Jon respects her competence, marries her in a ceremony that unites two great houses. The wedding is pragmatic rather than romantic. Both understand this is political alliance, but there is mutual respect. Margaery appreciates that Jon does not pretend to love her. Jon appreciates that she does not expect it. They will work together effectively. That is more valuable than affection. On their wedding night, they discuss strategy rather than consummate immediately. Margaery wants to understand Jon's plans. He explains candidly. They will take King's Landing within the year. Cersei will be executed. Tommen will be spared if he takes the Black. Jaime will be offered the choice of death or the Night's Watch. No mercy for those who resist. Complete victory. Margaery asks if he feels anything about destroying his adoptive family. Jon says they ceased being his family when they opposed his claim. Family is a tool. Loyalty flows to those who are useful. She is his family now. The Tyrells. They will rule together. Margaery finds this cold but pragmatic. She can work with this. Better a competent, ruthless king than an incompetent, cruel one. She agrees to support him fully. Agrees to produce heirs, agrees to be the public face of compassion while he is the Iron Fist. They understand each other. The partnership is formed. Tyrion arrives at Casterly Rock months into the campaign. Jon receives him in Tywin's old solar, the room where Jon spent his childhood watching the old lion work. Tyrion sees Jon sitting in Tywin's chair looking exactly like Tywin. The same cold calculation, the same measuring gaze, the same atmosphere of controlled menace. It is disturbing how completely Tywin succeeded in his project. Tyrion offers his services as advisor. Jon asks why he should trust a kinslayer who murdered Tywin. Tyrion says because he is useful, because he understands King's Landing, because he is loyal to competence over sentiment, because Jon needs someone who will tell him the truth. Jon considers this. Tyrion is clever. Tywin valued him despite hating him. A useful tool. Jon accepts him into his service, but makes clear that betrayal means death. Tyrion becomes Jon's hand in practice, if not title. He manages the logistics of the campaign, handles negotiations with difficult allies, solves problems Jon does not want to personally address. They work well together. Tyrion provides perspective Jon lacks. Jon provides direction and decision-making. The partnership is effective. One conversation reveals Jon's complete adoption of Tywin's worldview. Tyrion asks if Jon ever wonders what kind of man he would have been if Ned Stark raised him, if he learned honor instead of ruthlessness. Jon says no. Honor is a luxury. Ned Stark is dead because he valued honor over survival. Robb Stark is dead for the same reason. The honorable Starks are corpses. The ruthless Lannisters rule. That tells you which philosophy works. Tyrion has no response. Jon is right in the most disturbing way. The siege of King's Landing is inevitable. Jon's forces surround the city. Cut it off completely. No food enters. No messengers leave. Cersei has wildfire and threatens to burn the city rather than surrender. Jon calls the bluff. If she burns King's Landing, she dies with it and accomplishes nothing. Better to surrender and face trial. She might live if she cooperates. Cersei does not respond to logic. She is desperate and trapped. Jaime faces his final choice. Cersei wants him to kill Jon, to sneak through the siege and murder the Pretender. Jaime knows this is madness, but Cersei is everything to him. His twin, his lover, his reason for breaking every vow. He attempts to infiltrate Jon's camp, is caught by guards who recognize him, brought before Jon in chains. Jon looks at Jaime without emotion. The man who trained him, taught him advanced sword work, was kind when kindness was not required, now a prisoner who came to kill him. Jon asks if he came to assassinate him. Jaime admits it. Jon asks why he should not execute him immediately. Jaime says because he is family, because he taught Jon, because there is honor in sparing him. Jon laughs, tells Jaime that honor is why he is in chains. Honor is why Cersei is losing. Honor is a trap, but Jon is merciful in his way, offers Jaime the choice. Die here for Cersei, who is doomed anyway, or kill Cersei himself and end the war immediately, save thousands of lives, prevent the city from burning, be a kingslayer twice, but this time save the city instead of just watching it burn. Jaime is horrified by the choice. Kill Cersei to save King's Landing. History repeating. Except this time he kills someone he loves, rather than a mad king he despised. Jon tells him he has 1 hour to decide. Guards, take him away. Tyrion visits Jaime in the cell. Cersei will burn the city. She has nothing left to lose. Jaime can save hundreds of thousands by killing one person. The math is simple. Tyrion leaves Jaime with that thought. Jaime makes his choice, agrees to Jon's terms, is given armor and weapons, returned to King's Landing under flag of truce supposedly to negotiate, goes to Cersei. She embraces him, happy he returned to her, asks if he killed Jon. Jaime says no, says Jon is too well protected, says they need to surrender. Cersei refuses absolutely, would rather burn than bend. Jaime looks at her, the woman he loved more than honor, more than duty, more than his own soul. She will destroy everything rather than admit defeat, will kill millions for pride. He understands finally what Jon understood immediately. Some people cannot be saved, cannot be reasoned with, must be stopped. He draws his sword. Cersei does not understand until too late. Jaime kills her, quick and clean, then signals Jon's forces, opens the gates. King's Landing surrenders. The city is taken without a battle. The small folk cheer the end of the siege. Food arrives immediately. Jon enters the city on horseback with Margaery beside him. They ride to the Red Keep. Jaime meets them in the throne room, covered in Cersei's blood. A kingslayer and queenslayer both. He kneels and offers his sword. Jon accepts the surrender. Orders Jaime taken into custody. The trial will come later. Jon sits the Iron Throne for the first time. It is less impressive than he imagined. Just an uncomfortable chair made of swords, but it represents ultimate power. He is king now, King Jon Targaryen, first of his name. He allows himself a moment of satisfaction, then returns to work. Victory is not the end. Ruling is harder than conquering. Tywin taught him that. The real work begins now. The trials are public and swift. Cersei's loyalists are judged harshly. Those who committed atrocities are executed. Those who simply followed orders are fined and pardoned. Jon shows mercy where pragmatic, shows ruthlessness where necessary. The balance is Tywin's teaching, fear and reward in measured amounts. Jaime's trial is complicated. He murdered a queen but ended a war, saved the city from burning. Jon offers him the choice, death or the Night's Watch. Jaime chooses the watch, wants to live despite everything, takes the black and heads north. Jon ensures he is treated well at Castle Black. Jaime earned that much at least. Tommen takes the black as well. The boy never wanted to be king, is relieved to escape. Jon lets him go without punishment. Tommen was a tool, not an enemy. Margaery had been married to him briefly. Shows her gratitude by ensuring Tommen reaches the wall safely. The marriage to Jon is her third. She jokes that perhaps this one will last. The realm settles under Jon's rule. He is crowned formally in a ceremony that combines Targaryen tradition and practical politics. 3 dragons are discovered and hatched through Daenerys' arrival from Essos. She comes to challenge Jon's claim, expects to fight. Instead, Jon offers partnership. Co-rule. He has the throne and she has dragons. Together they are unstoppable. Separately they weaken each other. Daenerys considers this, agrees tentatively. The alliance is formed. The relationship between Jon and Daenerys is complicated. She represents everything Targaryen, fire and blood and conquest and destiny. He represents cold calculation. They clash philosophically. She wants to break the wheel. He wants to control it, but they need each other. She needs his legitimacy and resources. He needs her dragons. The partnership is tense but functional. Jon rules effectively, institutes reforms that improve the realm, not from kindness, but from pragmatism. Happy small folk are productive. Productive subjects generate wealth. Wealth is power. He reduces corruption, improves trade, strengthens defenses, rebuilds infrastructure. The realm prospers under his cold efficiency. But the Night King approaches from the north. The dead rise. The long night comes. Jon faces the ultimate test. War against an enemy that cannot be negotiated with, cannot be bribed, cannot be reasoned with, only destroyed. This is war in its purest form, survival versus extinction. Jon mobilizes every resource, calls every banner, brings every ally to Winterfell for the final battle. The defense of Winterfell is desperate. The dead come in endless waves. Jon commands from the walls, makes decisions that sacrifice hundreds to save thousands, orders retreats that abandon entire sections, ruthless calculation in the face of horror. People die following his orders. He does not hesitate, does not flinch, does what is necessary. Tywin would approve. The Night King targets Jon specifically, sees him as the leader, the one holding the defense together. They face each other in single combat. Ice and fire, death and life. Jon fights with everything Tywin taught him. No honor, no fair play, just winning. He uses every dirty trick, every deception. Stabs the Night King with dragon glass while pretending to stumble. The Night King shatters. The dead fall. The living survive. Jon stands among the corpses. Victory and death smell the same. He survived. Westeros survived. The cost was catastrophic. Tens of thousands dead. Winterfell in ruins, the North devastated. But they won. That is what matters. He returns to King's Landing to continue ruling. The realm needs rebuilding. He will rebuild it stronger. That is his purpose. Years pass. Jon rules competently, if not warmly. The realm is stable, prosperous, safe. He produces heirs with Marjorie. Children raised as he was raised, taught that power matters more than honor. That legacy is everything. That family serves the interests of the house. The cycle continues. Tyrion watches Jon rule and sees Tywin's victory complete. The old lion is dead, but his philosophy rules through Jon. Every decision Jon makes reflects Tywin's teaching. Every reform follows Tywin's logic. Tywin shaped a king from nothing, made a Lannister from a Targaryen, changed the course of history through one act of raising a child. The legacy is complete. Jon sometimes wonders about the other life, the one where Ned raised him, where he learned honor instead of ruthlessness, where he became Jon Snow instead of Jon Lannister, instead of Jon Targaryen. Would he be happier? Would he be better? He does not know, but he knows he would be dead. Ned is dead. Robb is dead. Honor killed them. Pragmatism saved him. That is proof enough. The North remembers but cannot act. Jon is half Stark by blood. He avenged the Red Wedding by destroying the Boltons eventually. He saved the realm from the dead, but he is not a Northerner in any way that matters. He is something else entirely, a hybrid of lion and wolf and dragon, something new, something terrifying, something effective. The legacy of Jon's rule extends beyond policy and conquest. He fundamentally changes what it means to be a Targaryen king. The old dynasty was fire and blood and destiny and madness. Jon's dynasty is cold calculation and pragmatic ruthlessness and measured cruelty. He is called Jon the Iron, not for his throne, but for his nature, unyielding, unbreakable, without warmth or sentiment. The small folk fear him but accept his rule because it brings stability. There are no mad purges, no random executions, no dragon fire raining from the sky because the king is displeased. Jon kills when necessary, but never for pleasure, never for sport. Every death serves a purpose, removes an obstacle, sends a message, establishes dominance. The calculus is always clear. Tywin taught him that violence should be tool, not expression. The nobility hate him quietly. He is too competent to oppose directly, but his rule crushes their traditional autonomy. Jon believes that strong lords are threats, that power should concentrate at the center. He systematically weakens the great houses through legal means, increases royal taxation, requires hostages disguised as wards, stations royal forces in strategic castles. replaces hereditary positions with appointed ones. The lords cannot protest because each measure is reasonable individually. Collectively, they destroy feudal independence. Tyrion serves his hand for 20 years. He moderates Jon's worst impulses without opposing them directly. When Jon wants to execute someone for minor dissent, Tyrion suggests imprisonment instead. When Jon plans to seize lands from a lord, Tyrion proposes heavy fines instead. The goal is always the same: break resistance, establish control, but Tyrion's methods leave fewer corpses. Jon tolerates this because Tyrion is useful. Results matter more than methods. Their relationship is complex. Tyrion knew Tywin, knew the monster behind the legend, sees how completely Tywin's poison infected Jon. Sometimes Tyrion tries to reach the person beneath the programming, asks Jon if he ever feels guilt, if he ever questions whether ruling through fear is sustainable, if he ever wonders what love feels like. Jon responds that guilt is wasted energy, that fear is more reliable than love. That wondering accomplishes nothing. Tyrion stops asking. Some people cannot be saved from themselves. Margaery plays her role perfectly. She is the warm face of the cold regime, visits orphanages, distributes food during famines, listens to small folk complaints. She makes the people believe their king cares even when he does not. Jon appreciates her performance, tells her she is doing excellent work maintaining their image. Margaery sometimes hates him for his honesty, for not even pretending to care. But she is trapped by her ambitions. She wanted to be queen. She is queen. The cost is being married to someone who sees her as a tool. Their children are raised in Tywin's tradition. Jon personally oversees their education, teaches them that power is everything. That sentiment is weakness, that they exist to serve House Targaryen. The eldest son, Aerys, absorbs these lessons eagerly. He is brilliant and cruel and ambitious, everything Jon was shaped to be. The second son, Tywin, named for Jon's true father, is softer, questions the ruthlessness. Jon worries about him. Softness means vulnerability, must be corrected. A revealing moment comes when Aerys is 10. He tortures a cat in the gardens. Jon discovers this. The parallel to his own childhood is exact. The cat, the cruelty, the test. But Jon's reaction is different than Tywin's was. Jon punishes Aerys harshly, not for cruelty itself, for being caught, for showing his nature publicly. Jon explains that you can be cruel, but you must hide it, must maintain appearances. The weak need to believe you are just. The strong need to believe you are reasonable. Show your true nature only when necessary, otherwise wear the mask. Aerys understands, learns to hide better. The dragons are both power and problem. Daenerys controls them initially, but Jon studies them, learns their habits, discovers they respond to Targaryen blood. He can command them too, not as well as Daenerys, but well enough. This creates tension. Both have access to ultimate weapons. Both know the other is potential threat. They maintain alliance through necessity, but trust is impossible. Each waits for the other to make a mistake. The resolution comes when Daenerys falls ill, some sickness from Essos that her body cannot fight. She weakens over months. Jon ensures she has the best maesters, best care, but also ensures nothing they do actually works. Poisons administered slowly, symptoms that mimic natural illness. She dies within the year. Tragic loss. The realm mourns. Jon delivers a moving eulogy written by Tyrion, takes full control of the dragons, consolidates power completely. Tyrion knows. Cannot prove it, but knows. Jon murdered Daenerys slowly. Tyrion confronts him privately, asks if he killed his own aunt. Jon does not deny or confirm, asks Tyrion what he would do with the knowledge if it were true. Tyrion realizes the threat. He has no proof. Accusing the king of murder means his own death. He drops the issue, continues serving, but something breaks between them. Tyrion serves now from fear rather than belief. Jon accepts this. Fear is more reliable anyway. The North remains complicated. Jon has Stark blood but not Stark values. The Northern Lords follow him because he is Lyanna's son and because he has absolute power. But there is no love. When Jon visits Winterfell, which he does rarely, the reception is cold. Respect without warmth. Obedience without loyalty. The North remembers the Red Wedding. Remembers that Tywin planned it. That Jon is Tywin's heir in every way that matters. Jon meets the surviving Starks during these visits. Sansa rules Winterfell as Wardeness of the North. She escaped King's Landing through complicated means, survived the wars, returned home. She looks at Jon with complicated emotions. He is her cousin by blood, Lyanna's son. But he is everything the Starks are not. Ruthless where they are honorable. Cold where they are warm. She does not trust him, does not like him, but must work with him because he is king. Their conversations are tense. Sansa pushes for northern autonomy. Jon refuses. The North is part of his kingdom, will follow his laws, pay his taxes, provide his soldiers. She argues the North is different, has its own traditions, needs independence. Jon tells her that every region is different. All must submit to central authority. That is how kingdoms function. She can rule Winterfell as his warden, or someone else can. Her choice. Sansa submits, but the resentment grows. Arya is more direct. She escaped to Braavos, trained with the Faceless Men, became an assassin, returns to Westeros, and sees what Jon has become. She tries to kill him, gets close using her skills, infiltrates his chambers at night, stands over him with a blade. Jon wakes before she strikes. Years of Tywin's paranoia training save him. He disarms her in seconds, has her in custody. Jon looks at Arya, the girl who would have been something like a sister if he was raised at Winterfell. Instead, she is an assassin trying to kill him. He asks why. She says because he is a monster. Because he murdered his way to power. Because he rules through fear. Because he dishonors their shared blood. Jon considers executing her, but sees opportunity instead. Offers her a choice, death or service. Use her skills for him. Become his personal assassin. Kill his enemies instead of trying to kill him. Arya refuses violently, would rather die than serve him. Jon respects that, orders her imprisoned instead of executed. Keeps her locked in comfortable chambers, visits occasionally to talk, tries to understand this stark honor that makes death preferable to pragmatism. Never understands it, but he keeps her alive anyway. Some sentiment from the child he was before Tywin. Some connection to blood he cannot quite sever. Bran is the three-eyed raven, sees everything past and present, knows Jon's entire history, knows what Tywin did to shape him, knows every murder Jon committed, every cruel decision, every moment of ruthlessness. Bran tells Jon once that he could have been different, that choices made him what he is, not destiny. Jon asks if Bran would change anything if he could. Bran says no. Jon is what the realm needed, a strong king who would rule effectively. Honor would have doomed them. The dead would have won. Sometimes monsters are necessary. Jon finds this validation satisfying. Even the mystical Stark accepts his methods as necessary. Proof that pragmatism works. But Bran also warns him. Says that legacies built on fear always collapse eventually. That his children will face rebellion he suppressed. That the wheel he controls so tightly will break when his grip loosens. Jon dismisses this. The future is not his problem. His job is ruling now. Let his heirs handle their own era. The faith becomes a tool for control. Jon is not religious, but recognizes religion's value. The faith of the Seven has enormous influence over small folk. Jon negotiates with the High Septon, offers crown funding for septs and orphanages. In exchange, the faith preaches obedience to the crown, teaches that rebellion is sin, that the gods chose Jon to rule. The High Septon agrees because the alternative is persecution. The faith becomes an arm of royal power. The economy flourishes under Jon's management. He learned accounting and trade from Tywin, knows that wealth is the foundation of power. He invests in infrastructure, builds roads and ports, protects merchants, reduces corruption in tax collection. The realm grows richer. Jon taxes this wealth heavily, fills the royal treasury, uses gold to buy loyalty, to fund armies, to maintain power. The cycle is efficient. But there is no art or culture in Jon's reign, no songs or stories celebrating his rule. The bards sing about Robert and Robb and even Joffrey, because their stories have human elements. Jon's story is just efficient administration and calculated violence. Nothing to inspire songs. He does not care. Songs do not determine who holds power. Results do. Let other kings have songs. He will have absolute control. Tyrion tries once to make Jon understand what he is missing, explains that ruling is not just about control, that people need hope, need beauty, need something to believe in beyond fear and order. Jon asks what that accomplishes. Tyrion says it makes life worth living. Jon says survival is what makes life worth living. Everything else is luxury. Tyrion realizes Jon is incapable of understanding. Tywin removed that capacity, created a perfect king by removing humanity. A rebellion does eventually come. The lords of the Vale and the Riverlands and the North unite. They have had enough. Enough taxation. Enough control. Enough fear. They want freedom even if freedom means chaos. The rebellion is well planned, coordinated, multiple fronts simultaneously. The largest uprising since Robert's Rebellion. Jon faces the greatest challenge of his rule. His response is methodical destruction. He does not march armies to meet them. Instead, he uses dragons and strategic assassination, burns the rebel supply lines, kills the rebel leaders with targeted strikes, turns the rebellion into guerrilla war that drags on for years, makes it so expensive that ordinary lords cannot afford to participate. The rebellion does not end with a great battle. It ends with exhaustion. The rebels give up because continuing costs more than submitting. The punishment after is calculated. Jon executes only the ringleaders, fines everyone else heavily, seizes some lands but not all, shows that rebellion is possible to survive if you submit afterward, creates incentive to surrender, but also makes clear that leadership of rebellion means death. The balance is perfect. Future rebels will hesitate. Through all this, Jon never shows emotion, never rage or joy or sadness. He is the perfect embodiment of Tywin's philosophy, a mind without sentiment, a will without doubt, a ruler who makes decisions based purely on effectiveness. People wonder if he feels anything, if there is a human under the mask. Jon has wondered this himself, decided it does not matter. Feelings are irrelevant to ruling. His relationship with his children is purely educational. He spends time with them to teach them, to shape them. Not to play or bond. Marjorie provides whatever warmth they receive. Jon provides discipline and instruction. Aerys thrives under this, becomes a miniature version of Jon. Tywin struggles. Wants his father's approval but cannot suppress his empathy. Jon sees this as weakness to be corrected through harsher training. A defining moment comes when Tywin is 12. He helps a servant who is being beaten by guards. The servant stole food. The punishment is deserved, but Tywin intervenes, stops the beating, argues the servant was hungry and desperate. Jon is informed, brings Tywin to his solar, explains that mercy to one servant encourages others to steal. That kindness is weakness that others exploit. That Tywin must learn to suppress these impulses. Tywin argues that cruelty breeds resentment, that kindness creates loyalty, that there is another way to rule. Jon realizes his son is defective by his standards, has not learned the lessons properly. He increases the severity of Tywin's education. More hours studying strategy, more time watching punishments, more exposure to the harsh realities of power, trying to burn out the softness, but it does not work. Tywin remains compassionate despite everything. Jon eventually accepts this as failure. Aerys will inherit. Tywin can serve in some other capacity, but Marjorie sees opportunity in Tywin. She nurtures his compassion secretly, teaches him that his nature is not weakness, that there is strength in kindness, that people follow out of love more reliably than fear. She is building a counter to Jon's philosophy, preparing her son to rule differently. Jon does not notice because he believes she is just being maternal, cannot imagine she would undermine his teachings deliberately. The years pass. Jon ages, remains sharp and capable, but human time catches everyone. He is 50 when he starts feeling his mortality, realizes he will not rule forever, that his legacy depends on his heir. Aerys is ready. Aerys is perfect, a true successor to both Tywin and Jon. But Jon also sees the resentment in his realm, the fear that holds the kingdom together, wonders if it will hold after he dies. He asks Tyrion near the end, asks if his rule was just, if he did what was necessary, if history will judge him fairly. Tyrion tells him the truth. History will call him effective, will acknowledge he brought stability and prosperity, but will not call him good, will not say he was loved, will remember him as the king who ruled through fear so perfectly that no one dared breathe without permission. Jon accepts this. Good is for songs. Effective is for history. He was effective. That is enough. Jon dies at 63. Natural causes, finally. Heart failure in his sleep. Peaceful end for a man who caused so much calculated suffering. The realm mourns properly. Public displays of grief orchestrated by Marjorie. The funeral is grand. 3 dragons circle overhead. Every great lord attends. The ceremony is perfect. But behind the pageantry there is relief. The Iron King is dead. Perhaps the next king will be different. Perhaps the fear can end. Perhaps the realm can breathe again. The hope is mostly disappointed. Aerys takes the throne. Rules exactly as Jon taught him. The cycle continues. The wheel keeps turning. Tywin's philosophy lives on through his adopted son and grandson. Tyrion outlives Jon by years, writes a history of the reign, calls it the Iron King, a study in power. The book is brutally honest, describes every atrocity, every calculated cruelty. Every moment Jon chose effectiveness over humanity, but also acknowledges the results, the prosperity, the stability, the survival. Tyrion concludes that Jon was exactly what Westeros needed at that moment. A monster to fight monsters. A tyrant to prevent chaos. Sometimes the world needs the person who is willing to do terrible things so others do not have to. The book is banned by Aerys, but copies survive. Spread. Become the definitive account. Future historians reference it constantly. Jon's reputation crystallizes around it. The king who won, the king who ruled, the king who was never loved, but the king who made the realm work. In the North, the songs are different. They sing about the bastard who should have been a Stark, who could have been a hero, who instead became a different kind of legend. A warning about what happens when you raise a child without love, when you teach power without compassion, when you create perfection without humanity. Jon Snow, who became Jon Lannister, who became Jon Targaryen. The boy who had 3 names and no soul. But the truth is more complicated than songs allow. Jon was not without feeling. He was taught to suppress feeling, taught that emotion was weakness. Taught so thoroughly that he believed it, became it, lived it, and in becoming the perfect student, lost the ability to be anything else. Tywin's greatest achievement and greatest crime, creating a king so effective he was barely human. The years after Jon's death reveal the true nature of his legacy in ways even he could not have predicted. Aerys II, named ironically after the Mad King but raised to be perfectly sane and perfectly ruthless, takes the throne with absolute confidence. He is 25 years old and has been preparing for this moment his entire life. Every lesson Jon taught, every principle Tywin instilled, every method of control and domination. Aerys absorbed them all and added his own innovations. He is more dangerous than his father because he has Jon's competence without the tiny shred of restraint that occasionally checked Jon's worst impulses. His first act as king is consolidating power in ways Jon never dared. Jon maintained the appearance of feudalism while slowly strangling it. Aerys eliminates the appearance entirely. He declares a new system. The great houses remain, but only as administrators. They no longer rule their regions. They manage them on behalf of the crown. All armies answer to the Iron Throne directly. All major decisions require royal approval. All significant appointments come from King's Landing. Feudalism dies officially under Aerys II. Centralized autocracy replaces it. The lords rebel immediately. This is too much, too fast, too complete a destruction of their ancient rights. The Vale, the North, the Iron Islands, and parts of the Reach rise in coordinated rebellion. They have tolerated the erosion of power under Jon because he did it gradually and maintained pretense. Aerys strips away pretense, forces them to accept servitude openly or fight. They choose to fight. The war is inevitable and enormous, but Aerys is prepared because Jon prepared him. The royal armies are positioned perfectly. Loyal houses are rewarded with rebel lands before the fighting even starts. Dragons are used immediately and without mercy. The first rebel castle to resist is burned entirely. Every person inside dies screaming. The message is clear. Surrender immediately or face complete annihilation. Many lords see the burning castle and reconsider their positions. The rebellion fractures before it truly begins. Tywin, Jon's second son, watches this with growing horror. He is 22 and has served as Aerys's master of ships. He disagrees fundamentally with his brother's methods but has never openly opposed him because opposing Aerys is suicide. But the burning castle crosses a line. Thousands of innocent people dead to make a point, women and children burned alive. This is not justice. This is not even effective ruthlessness. This is cruelty for its own sake, something his father never did. Jon killed when necessary. Aerys kills to terrify. Tywin makes a choice that shocks the realm. He defects, takes his fleet and sails north, joins the rebels, brings the Royal Navy to their cause. The defection is devastating to Aerys politically and strategically. His own brother, his father's son, choosing honor over family loyalty, choosing mercy over power. It is the ultimate rejection of everything Jon taught, everything Tywin Lannister, the Old Lion, taught. The philosophy that shaped their family for 2 generations. Aerys's response is volcanic rage. He declares Tywin a traitor and kinslayer in spirit, offers massive reward for his capture, sends assassins and dragons to hunt him, tells the realm that his brother is dead to him, that anyone who helps Tywin shares his fate. The hunt becomes personal. Aerys cannot tolerate this rejection, cannot accept that his father's teachings could be wrong. If Tywin succeeds, it proves Jon's entire philosophy was flawed. That cannot be allowed. Margaery reveals her role in Tywin's defection. She prepared him for this, taught him compassion and honor in secret for years, built in him everything Jon tried to suppress. She tells Aerys that she is proud of Tywin, proud that one son learned humanity despite Jon's attempts to crush it. Aerys has her arrested immediately, his own mother, locked in comfortable but secure chambers. She becomes a hostage to ensure Tywin's behavior. If Tywin pushes too hard, Margaery dies. The war becomes a conflict between philosophies embodied in brothers. Aerys represents pure Lannister pragmatism, power above all, victory by any means. The realm is a chessboard where pieces are sacrificed without hesitation. Tywin represents a different path, trying to prove that leadership through inspiration works better than leadership through fear. That you can rule effectively without becoming a monster. That their father was wrong about everything that mattered. Tyrion, now ancient and barely able to walk, watches this civil war with complicated emotions. He outlived Tywin the Old Lion, outlived Jon, outlived everyone from his generation. He sees in Tywin the nephew he always hoped Jon could become. Someone who learned from Tywin's teachings but rejected them. Someone who saw the cost of ruthlessness and chose differently. Tyrion writes letters to both nephews, tells Aerys he is repeating his grandfather's mistakes, tells Tywin he is incredibly brave and incredibly doomed. The war grinds on for 3 years. Aerys has dragons and the wealth of the crown. Tywin has the fleet and growing popular support. Small folk flock to his banner because he promises a different kind of rule. Lords join because they are exhausted by authoritarianism. The North rallies completely because Tywin has Stark blood and Stark values somehow. Sansa declares for him immediately. Arya escapes her long imprisonment and joins his cause. Even the remaining Baratheons and Martells support him because anyone is better than Aerys. The turning point comes at a battle near Harrenhal. Aerys commands his forces personally. Tywin commands the opposition, brother against brother, dragon against fleet. The battle is chaos and slaughter. Aerys's dragons burn ships and soldiers. Tywin's archers shoot down one dragon with hundreds of arrows. The beast falls from the sky and drowns in the god's eye. Aerys is furious and grief-stricken. Orders total slaughter, no prisoners, no mercy. Every rebel dies, but his soldiers hesitate. They are tired of endless cruelty, tired of fighting their own people, tired of serving a king who sees them as disposable tools. When Aerys orders them to execute prisoners, they refuse, not openly, just slowly, reluctantly, incompletely. The discipline fractures. Aerys screams at them, threatens them. Some obey from fear, others quietly sabotage. Let prisoners escape, warn enemies of attacks. The regime is crumbling from within. Tywin sees this and makes his move. He offers amnesty to any of Aerys's soldiers who defect, promises they will not be punished for following orders, promises land and titles to those who bring significant forces. The defections accelerate. Entire units switch sides. The royal army dissolves over weeks. Aerys is left with only his most fanatical loyalists, maybe 5,000 men who believe in his vision or are too compromised to switch sides. The final confrontation happens at King's Landing. Aerys retreats to the capital with his remaining forces and his last 2 dragons. Tywin besieges the city, but carefully. He wants to take it without destroying it, wants to prove he is different from Aerys, wants to show that power does not require atrocity. The siege lasts months. The city suffers, but not catastrophically. Food is scarce, but Tywin allows some supplies through, enough to prevent starvation, enough to show he cares about civilian lives. Inside the city, Aerys grows desperate. He has wildfire, considers using it, would rather destroy King's Landing than lose it. His advisors beg him to reconsider. Tell him that burning the city proves Tywin's point, proves that their philosophy leads to madness. Aerys does not care. If he cannot rule, no one will. He orders the wildfire lit, thousands of caches throughout the city ready to ignite simultaneously. But the pyromancers refuse. They have families in the city, cannot murder everyone they love for a king's pride. They sabotage the wildfire instead, make it inert. Tell Aerys it is ready when it is not. When he gives the order to burn the city, nothing happens. Aerys realizes he has been betrayed, realizes everyone has abandoned him, realizes he is alone. The last believer in Jon's philosophy, facing the consequences. Tywin's forces breach the walls the next day, enter the city peacefully. The small folk cheer them. Throw flowers, call Tywin the Liberator. He rides to the Red Keep where Aerys makes his final stand. Brother faces brother in the throne room. Aerys sits the Iron Throne with a sword across his lap, waiting, defiant, refusing to surrender or flee. If he dies as a king. Tywin offers him mercy. Take the black. Live out your life at the wall. Renounce the throne and the philosophy that led here. Admit that father was wrong, that grandfather was wrong, that there is a better way to rule. Aerys refuses, says that strength is the only truth, that Tywin won through strength, so proves the philosophy correct, that mercy is weakness. Tywin will regret, that future kings will be like Aerys because that is what works. Tywin realizes his brother is beyond saving, beyond reason, too damaged by Jon's teaching to ever be anything else. He does what must be done, challenges Aerys to single combat, brother against brother. One final duel to decide the future. Aerys accepts because he believes he will win. He was always the better fighter, always more ruthless. Tywin is soft. Softness loses. The duel is brutal and short. Aerys fights to kill, uses every dirty trick, every deception. Fights exactly as Jon and Tywin the Old Lion taught. Tywin fights defensively, waits for opening, finds it when Aerys overextends, trying to end it quickly. Tywin's sword pierces Aerys's heart. The Iron King's son dies on the throne room floor. The philosophy dies with him, or begins to. Tywin takes the throne as King Tywin I. He immediately releases his mother from captivity. Marjorie is 70, but still sharp. She becomes his closest advisor. Together they dismantle everything Jon built, restore autonomy to the great houses, reduce royal taxation, abolish the secret police, free political prisoners, destroy the wildfire caches, reform the gold cloaks, create a code of laws that applies even to the king, build a different kind of kingdom. The realm transforms under Tywin's rule. It is messier than Jon's reign, less efficient, more chaotic. Lords argue and fight and compete. But there is hope. There is freedom. People can breathe, can criticize without fearing death, can build lives without constant surveillance. The economy still functions. The realm is still defended, but through cooperation rather than domination, through inspiring loyalty rather than enforcing obedience. Tyrion lives long enough to see this transformation. He tells Tywin that he proved something important, that Jon's way was not the only way, that you can rule effectively without becoming a monster, that Tywin the Old Lion was wrong about everything that mattered most, that love and honor and mercy are not weaknesses, they are different kinds of strength. Tyrion dies happy, content that one person escaped the poison. One person chose better. The historians debate Jon's legacy for centuries. Some argue he was necessary, that the realm after Robert needed iron rule to survive, that democracy and freedom are luxuries that chaotic times cannot afford, that Jon provided the autocracy required to prevent collapse. That Tywin the Younger could only rule kindly because Jon created stability first through harshness. That the Targaryen dynasty survived because Jon was willing to do terrible things to preserve it. Others argue Jon was catastrophic. That he taught a generation of rulers that cruelty was pragmatism. That he normalized atrocity. That his reign prevented natural political evolution. That Westeros would have found its own path to stability through negotiation and compromise if given time. That Jon's authoritarianism delayed development by decades. That his legacy is thousands dead and millions traumatized by fear. That effective tyranny is still tyranny. The truth is probably both. Jon was the product of his upbringing. Tywin the Old Lion saw a tool, shaped a child into the perfect instrument of Lannister power. Jon learned those lessons too well, became too perfect a student, lost himself in the process. He ruled effectively, brought stability, saved the realm from the dead, but at the cost of his own humanity and the trauma of everyone who lived under his rule. The comparison to Ned Stark haunts the histories. What if Ned had raised Jon? What if the boy learned honor instead of ruthlessness? Would he have been a better king? Would he have been a king at all? The alternative timeline is unknowable but tantalizing. Jon Snow, the honorable bastard of Winterfell. Jon Snow, the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. Jon Snow, who never wanted power but took it from duty. That Jon died and was reborn. That Jon killed the woman he loved to save the realm. That Jon had humanity and empathy and struggled with impossible choices. Jon Lannister, Jon Targaryen, Jon the Iron had none of that. He was efficient, competent, ruthless. Everything a Lannister should be, everything Tywin the Old Lion wanted. But he was not quite human by the end. The boy who arrived at Casterly Rock as a baby could have been anything. The man who died at 63 was exactly one thing: a machine for exercising power. Perfectly built, perfectly functional, perfectly empty. The lesson the realm learned from Jon's reign is debated. Some see it as proof that strength is all that matters, that nice kings die young and ruthless kings die old, that if you want to survive the Game of Thrones, you must be willing to do anything. That Jon's success validates Tywin's philosophy completely. These people admire Jon, study his methods, try to emulate his cold calculation. Others see Jon as a warning, as the endpoint of a philosophy taken to its logical conclusion. If you believe power is all that matters, you become Jon. Effective but unloved, successful but hollow, feared but never cherished. You rule over subjects who obey but dream of your death. You die surrounded by people who celebrate your passing. You leave a legacy that your own son must dismantle to make the realm livable. That is not success. That is tragedy. In the North, they tell stories about the wolf who became a lion, about Lyanna's son who should have been a hero but became something else. They blame Tywin the Old Lion, blame Ned for giving the child away, blame the gods for the cruel twist of fate. But mostly they mourn what Jon could have been. Mourn the potential lost when a baby was given to the wrong family. Mourn the thousands who died because one man raised another man's son as a weapon. Casterly Rock keeps Jon's memory differently. His soul remains untouched for years. A museum to the man who made House Lannister supreme. Students study there, learn from his papers and letters and journals, see how he thought, how he planned, how he solved problems. To the Lannisters, Jon is the greatest of them all. Greater than Tywin the Old Lion, because he actually achieved what Tywin only dreamed of: total dominance, complete control. The Lannister philosophy perfected. The dragons remember Jon too in their way. The surviving dragons outlive him by decades. They accept riders from his descendants but never bond as completely. Jon understood them in ways others do not. Saw them as tools rather than companions. Used them effectively but without love. The dragons sensed this. Responded to his will but not his heart. After Jon, the dragons are more independent, more dangerous, less controllable, as if they learned from his example that relationships based on domination are unstable. Marjorie writes her own account late in life. A book called The Two Kings, A Mother's Perspective. She compares Jon and Tywin directly, both her sons, both shaped by the same grandfather's philosophy. One embraced it completely, one rejected it completely. She argues that the difference was small moments of kindness she provided, reading to Tywin as a child, teaching him music, showing him beauty. Jon never had that. Tywin the Old Lion removed every soft influence, created a perfect ruler and a broken person. She concludes that you cannot separate the human from the king. If you destroy the human, the king is poisoned too. The book is controversial. Some call it revisionist. Say she is trying to absolve herself of responsibility for Jon's atrocities. She was his mother figure after all. Should have done more to soften him, should have protected him from Tywin's influence. Others call it brave, an honest assessment from someone who knew Jon intimately, who saw both the competence and the emptiness, who understood what was lost when you raise a child without love. Jaime Lannister, who took the Black and lived at Castle Black for decades, writes to Marjorie before he dies, says he saw Jon once during a royal visit to the Wall. Jon was 30, already famous for his ruthlessness, already called the Iron King. Jaime tried to talk to him, remind him of the boy he trained, ask if he ever regretted the path he took. Jon looked at him without recognition, did not remember or pretend not to, said he had no time for irrelevant conversations with oath-breaking hermits, walked away. Jaime realized then that the boy he trained was dead, had been dead for years. Whatever Jon was, it was not the child who learned sword work in Casterly Rock's training yard. The Maesters compile a definitive history a century after Jon's death. They have access to all sources, all perspectives, all documents. Their conclusion is measured. Jon Targaryen was the most effective king since Aegon the Conqueror, brought unprecedented stability and prosperity, defended the realm against existential threats, created institutions that outlasted him. But he was also the cruelest king since Maegor, ruled through fear, destroyed lives casually, left psychological scars on generations. History must judge him as both, the king who saved the realm and traumatized it simultaneously. The small folk remember Jon with fear even generations later. Mothers threaten children with stories about him. Be good, or the Iron King will come for you. He sees everything, punishes everything, never forgives. The boogeyman of Westeros, the monster who wore a crown. This is not fair to Jon's memory. He was not randomly cruel, never tortured for pleasure, but fairness is not how memory works. The fear he cultivated for political purposes outlasted him, became his defining characteristic, became his curse. The great houses remember him politically, some with gratitude for the order he imposed, others with resentment for the autonomy he destroyed. The Lannisters are split, proud that one of their own, even adopted, achieved so much, embarrassed by what he became. Aware that his methods reflected poorly on the family, the Tyrells remember Marjorie and honor her sacrifice. The Starks remember Jon as a tragedy. The Martells remember him as Rhaegar's son who never embraced his Dornish heritage. Everyone has different Jon, multiple memories, multiple truths. Jon's children carry complicated legacies. Aerys too is remembered as the tyrant who pushed too far, who learned all his father's lessons but none of his restraint. History is not kind to him. He is the cautionary tale about what happens when you perfect authoritarianism, when you take ruthlessness to its logical endpoint, when you forget that power requires some consent to be sustainable. Tywin I is remembered as the reformer, the one who fixed his father's mistakes, who proved that another way was possible. But historians note that Tywin only succeeded because Jon created stability first, because the realm was exhausted by fear and ready for something different, that Tywin's reforms would have failed during chaotic times, that he could afford to be kind because his father was cruel first. The chicken and egg question of whether Jon's harshness enabled Tywin's mercy or whether Tywin's mercy proved Jon's harshness was unnecessary. No consensus emerges. In the end, Jon Targaryen remains one of history's great questions. Was he the king Westeros needed? Was he the king Westeros deserved? Was he a monster or a savior or both? The debates continue. The assessments vary. The truth remains elusive. But one fact is undeniable. He shaped history, changed the realm fundamentally, left an imprint that lasted centuries. For better or worse, the boy Tywin Lannister raised became one of the most significant figures in Westerosi history. The tragedy is that Jon himself never understood what he lost, never knew what he could have been if raised differently, never experienced love as something other than manipulation, never felt guilt as something other than wasted energy, never understood that the emptiness inside him was not strength, but absence. He died believing he had won, believing effectiveness was the only measure that mattered. believing Tywin's philosophy was vindicated by his success. But Tywin the Younger understood that their father's greatest victory was also his greatest failure. That creating the perfect king required destroying the perfect person. That you cannot separate power from humanity without poisoning both. That Jon's tragedy was not his cruelty, but his inability to imagine anything else. That Tywin the Old Lion's crime was not teaching Jon to be ruthless, but teaching him that ruthlessness was all that mattered. The final word belongs to Tyrion in his deathbed letter to Tywin the Younger. He writes, "Your father was the most competent king I ever knew. He was also the loneliest man I ever knew, though he did not know it. He ruled the world and owned nothing that mattered. He had everything and had nothing. He won the Game of Thrones and lost himself completely. Learn from him. Do better. Be the king who understands that power without humanity is victory without meaning. Be the king your father could have been if someone had loved him when he was young enough to learn love. Be the king that proves Tywin Lannister, for all his brilliance, was wrong about what matters most." The letter is preserved, becomes famous, is quoted by historians and philosophers, becomes the epitaph for Jon's reign. The man who had everything and nothing, the king who won and lost. The wolf who became a lion and lost both identities. The boy who could have been Jon Snow, hero of the North, who could have been Jon Stark, honorable lord, who instead became Jon Lannister, perfect weapon, who finally became Jon Targaryen, Iron King, who was all of these and none of them, who was exactly what he was shaped to be, nothing more, nothing less, nothing else. And so the story ends, not with triumph or tragedy, but with both intertwined. The question unanswered, the lesson unlearned, the realm forever changed by a child given to the wrong family, by a grandfather who saw a tool instead of a person, by a father figure who shaped a king and destroyed a soul, by a system that valued power over everything and paid the price for that value in ways both obvious and subtle, by a game where victory looks like Jon's reign and costs everything that makes victory worth having. What if Tywin Lannister raised Jon Snow? The realm would be stronger and colder, richer and emptier, more stable and more traumatized, ruled effectively and loved by no one. That is the answer. That is what happens when you raise a child without love, when you teach power without compassion, when you create perfection without humanity. You get Jon the Iron, the king who won everything and lost what mattered, the victory that felt like defeat, the ending that feels like warning.